All right, hey everybody, thanks for joining us for another edition of TouchCare Talks, another remote edition of TouchCare Talks today. I am joined by Brent Roberts and Ben Koubek of Bennie, which is a HR and benefits consulting technology platform and advisor. Ben and Brent are two of the earlier employees over at Bennie. They serve as both benefits advisors to large and small businesses, as well as technology consultants for what HR teams should be doing and implementing, both through the Bennie app and outside of the Bennie app. So very excited to have them on today and kind of talk about their perspective on what's going on in the current environment and what HR teams should be thinking about or doing or asking their benefits consultant if they're not already. So thanks guys for joining me. As you can see, it's a fun shirt Friday. We're festive. We're celebrating the fact that it's Friday, and we're not letting the work from home situation stop us. So a couple questions that I had for you guys, and I think that your perspective is really interesting, just given the fact that you sort of straddle that space of employee benefits consulting as well as technology for HR folks. But these are relatively unprecedented times that we're working through right now. And as the main correspondent on all things benefits, leave, wellness, and things related to that, a lot of responsibility seems to be falling on HR folks and HR departments right now to help their workforce navigate the pandemic and really our new normal in terms of like work and working from home. What are you guys seeing and hearing from your clients in terms of effective strategies?
Thanks, Rob. Thanks for having us today. And yeah, to that point, it's something that it's unprecedented in the fact that, everything going on right now, but also HR teams are typically there to support folks in what we think of, help with benefits and stress and things like that. But even more so, they're there to help them in person. And now that, someone can't walk over to someone's desk with, hey, I'm having this issue with my benefits, or I'm really stressed about this or something like that. I think they're feeling a little bit even more removed, and, everyone's kind of fighting with one arm tied behind our backs right now. And organizations like yourselves, even like TouchCare, or even just a lot in the behavioral health space, we're seeing becoming much more relevant because the HR teams are looking for more air cover, so to speak, in terms of how they can help provide these resources to their employees, where they're constantly coming to us saying, hey, I feel as though I'm spread so thin, I'm doing so many different things. We have so many issues right now going on in this nation with this pandemic, and people getting tested and dealing with, furloughed or layoffs or loss in, pay reductions. And they're trying to provide support in every way they possibly can. But they're spread so thin that, they need these additional resources. And I think that's the number one thing right now that we're seeing individuals look for, as opposed to, in addition to companies trying to reduce costs. Ultimately, everyone's trying to do that right now. But reaching a completely remote workforce when folks are very stressed or having to deal with these issues, I think is the most common theme we're seeing.
Yeah. And kind of to that point, talking about our technology a little bit, fortunately, our strength in what the technology delivers has really been stronger given everyone is remote. We fortunately have an awesome partnership with you and TouchCare, Rob, in that we can provide employees access to help and resources regardless of where they are, which has been really so valuable for HR teams to be able to not only ensure that we can support them manage this, but also that their employees have the direct access through our technology to assistance, guidance, not just around benefits, but around discounts for therapy. And Crisis Text Line has been an awesome partner to make sure that employees are just connected to resources and that we're putting resources at their disposal to ensure that employees are supported regardless of what's coming up, and that we're just that additional resource that the HR teams can lean on, because there's so many things they're trying to navigate. There are so much uncharted waters that they're trying to figure out that they never really thought about before. Letting them focus on that, being as much of a resource as we can for the HR teams, and then really taking as much of those employee issues questions off of their plate as well.
Yeah, so that's interesting because digital health is a trend that's been happening in healthcare and in benefits for a while now. And I think what you see is a world where there's a lot of disparate solutions that are all kind of coming together and gaining even more relevance and popularity during this time as folks are trying to reach their employee populations and give them the right support and help that they need. And Bennie's kind of unique in that you're both a benefits consultant and a technology company at your core that is sort of bringing all of that together in one, coordinated spot for the member. Talk to me a little bit about how you're leveraging your platform to help members during the current pandemic, specifically through the Bennie app and the Bennie platform.
Yeah, I think at the core, the app was, when we were designing and thinking about what we wanted to build, is understanding that as a benefits ecosystem gets more expansive and you bring in new vendors, it's really hard for employees to remember those things. It's kind of, you hear about them at open enrollment, and then a lot of times they forget how to access those things. And it really depends on internal systems, of course, but our ability to bring everything to their fingertips. Everyone is on their phone so often in this day and age. To put everything into one place has just been so valuable for employees, and making things, even things that are already there, we're not necessarily adding something like telehealth resources that every carrier offers. Most employees just don't know how to use it or have it there. And to make that so accessible on the technology has been something that's really powerful. So instead of employees have to remember 5 different places or 5 different vendors, carriers, who does what, they can just jump into Bennie and all of it's exactly where they need it to be in their pocket.
That's awesome.
And I think the features of education, the features surrounding education have a lot to do with it too. So, again, to what we were saying earlier, where, we are all remote and we're all a little disjointed right now. We can't have a meeting where employees can, hey, let's call everyone in the conference room and sit down and go through everything that's going on right now. And let's go through, hey, how you should navigate this and what to say at the doctor if you need a test, or if you're COVID, you think you might have COVID, whatever it is. We want to provide as many resources as we can too. So, even little educational videos that we can store in the app and the technology where, we can co-brand them with employers, and they can get the HR and the people teams there kind of, welcoming the us in and talking through it and giving the employees that same experience as if they were, sitting in a meeting. Or we just had a partnership with one of our partners, Row, where there's a free a free HR assessment that employees can, sorry about that. There's a free COVID assessment that can be, sent out to all employees through HR, that they can say, hey, use this. If you think you have contracted the virus, fill this out. It'll tell you where to go. If you might have it, then we have a consultation, as Brent was saying, for that telehealth evaluation with board certified physicians, and they can help, because for the majority of the public, if you do contract this virus, the best thing to do is, stay home and drink fluids and take Tylenol and just get better. And that way, we're not having individuals feeling lost and getting sick and saying, oh my God, I have a temperature of 102. Do I have to go to the emergency room? What do I have to do? They don't know. And this way, at least there's some type of reassurance, and through the resources that they have available, reassurance in what their kind of next steps and logistics should be. And it also gives the employer the ability to kind of get out there and give some of that more of a traditional approach, even if it is virtually, where they're still getting in front of their folks and kind of holding their hands as best they can.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting. It's a good point that, even given the current crisis and the current work situation for most folks around the country, that 6/1 or 7/1 renewal is still coming, right? And so you've got to deal with it, and you need to think about different ways to engage your employee population and educate folks on how to select benefits, or what all of this means, or where to go to get your care, and where to access those tools, as you mentioned. And so I think that's a really powerful piece, is leveraging the technology for specifically employee education during these times. Go ahead.
I was saying, even think about, so our partnership with yourself during open enrollment meetings. Yeah. We'll have no one's going to be really doing in persons, but even the live virtual meetings like this, after open enrollment, everyone's coming back and coming to HR and the people teams, going over their desks and saying, hey, I have a question on this, I have a question on that. And, now to not have these teams inundated with emails about going through little benefits questions, having a resource like TouchCare where employees can, sit down and just get it directly through the Bennie app. To Brent was saying before with, the telemedicine, that's the thing that I think is sometimes a little confusing to folks in healthcare in general is just navigating where to go. Okay, I know I have telemedicine. Where do I get it? Keeping it all in one place. Now they can just reach out and speak to someone on the TouchCare team about, hey, what's going to be the best fit for me? How does this plan cover this? How does this cover that? They get some of that same experience that they would, by just walking over to that person's desk that they historically would have, even though it is a little different in terms of, the overall experience right now, the end result is hopefully still pretty close to the same.
Yeah. Yeah. And eventually this is all, hopefully sooner rather than later, but eventually this is all going to come to some sort of an end, right? And we're gonna start to slowly migrate back to some sense of normalcy. It might look different. It might be different. It might be years before, things return to being the exact same in terms of like what the workplace looks and feels like now. And many employers are probably going to make some big changes to that. What recommendations do you have specifically for employers as they start thinking about bringing their employees back to work, or just return to work strategies, or really return to normal strategies?
Yeah, I think every company is a little bit different, kind of like in benefits, right? There's no one size fits all. So just leaning on the resources you have, whether it's your broker or consulting team, your network of HR professionals. I think one of the most powerful things we've built is the advisory group. So we have a huge group of HR professionals that are able to lean on each other in this, because no one's built a back to work policy after a pandemic at this point.
Right.
And there's so much power in leveraging that network. And it's something that's, in the last couple of days internally, they've been chatting about, hey, has anyone started this? What does it look like? Sharing resources. HR people, any problem or challenge you're having is likely not isolated to you, right? Everyone's kind of going through the same thing. So I would say just leaning on the community, your network, any kind of consulting or services you have that can weigh in there. But just being agile. I think we've been fortunate as a younger company that we're agile by nature, and that we're always trying to find ways to help out. So just know that, everyone's kind of in this together, and that we're all figuring out the best path forward. But just leaning on any resource you have, and trying to be as collaborative as possible. That's always going to lead to better results when you're not trying to do everything on your own. Kind of to our point of everything we've talked about, right? Is everyone's feeling a bit isolated, and the more you can talk to other people about what they've been doing, what's working, what isn't, is only going to lead to a better experience for everybody involved.
That's great. What a powerful tool, the HR advisory group that you guys have created. Well, awesome. Well, thanks guys for chatting with me. Appreciate your insight. I think, as I said, it's really unique, and you guys have an interesting perspective on this, both from a digital health standpoint, if you will, as well as from a benefits and brokerage advisory standpoint, and really an HR consulting standpoint. I probably missed in the intro there, but really appreciate the time today. I know everybody's super busy. Bennie, Brent Roberts, and Ben Koubek, check them out at www.bennie.com. And thanks again for joining us today.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, Rob. Always a pleasure.